For the first time since late 2020, McDonald's is experiencing a decline in sales, signaling serious trouble for the global fast food giant. The company recently reported a 1% drop in global sales and a staggering 15% decrease in stock value. The primary reason behind this downturn is that customers are increasingly finding McDonald's meals too expensive, prompting many to opt for home-cooked food instead. Unexpectedly, the company's global sales have slumped, and the ongoing tariff-related turmoil is severely undermining consumer confidence. Efforts by McDonald's to reduce prices are now clashing with lingering trade complications from the Trump administration era. In just one fiscal quarter, the company has seen 12,000 locations shut down, 60,000 jobs vanish, and $5 billion in revenue wiped off the books. This isn't a minor accounting error, it's a red alert sounded by McDonald's itself. Earlier today, in Chicago, McDonald's CEO Chris Kempczinski made a shocking live announcement. The company will be pulling back on production lines and temporarily halting all U.S. operations in an effort to minimize financial losses. The news triggered immediate tremors on Wall Street, where McDonald's stock plunged another 18%. Adding to the chaos, a massive class action lawsuit valued at over $30 billion has been filed by 1,700 franchise owners. The suit blames the White House's protectionist tariffs for dismantling the supply chain McDonald's relies on and destroying its low-cost business model. Once a proud symbol of American fast food, the Big Mac has now become a casualty of a growing trade war. The sight of such an iconic brand retreating in its home market raises serious questions. Has "Make America Great Again" turned into a warning about the dangers of economic protectionism? The issue intensified on March 1, 2025, when the America First 2.0 executive order came into effect. This legislation introduced the highest tariff package in modern U.S. history, with a 25% tax on most imports from Canada and Mexico and threats to increase that rate to as high as 145% for sensitive goods. Just 3 weeks later, even more severe tariffs were imposed on Chinese imports, described by Reuters as eye-watering. What initially seemed like abstract policy decisions quickly manifested into economic shockwaves. In response, Canada imposed its own 25% tariffs on $30 billion worth of U.S. products, targeting items like beef, cheese, and wine. The European Union followed suit, banning red meat and dairy products as part of its $28 billion countermeasures. For McDonald's, this was catastrophic. The company's just-in-time supply chain depended heavily on imports. 70% of its beef came from Canada, cheese from Europe, and frozen fries from various overseas sources. Within a mere 90 days, that entire system collapsed. U.S. ground beef prices have surged 43% since 2020, largely due to Canada scaling back its cattle production in anticipation of incoming tariffs. This made the cost of a Big Mac skyrocket. Lamb Weston, responsible for over 3.3 billion servings of fries annually, revealed it raised prices by 23% just to cover new shipping and import costs. As a result, the company's output in Q1 2025 dropped by 8%. But it's not just the food itself. Packaging materials like paper wrappers and plastic cups, primarily sourced from Mexico and China, are now 25% more expensive, driving packaging costs up by 50%. This has demolished the economics of McDonald's once iconic $1 menu, which depended on high volume and razor-thin profit margins. According to the National Restaurant Association, U.S. fast food chains typically operate on pre-tax profit margins of around 5%. Any cost increase above 10% can render them unprofitable. As of spring 2025, wholesale food prices are 35% higher than pre-pandemic levels, meaning McDonald's profit margins were already under pressure even before the burgers hit the counter. Internally, the signs were clear. U.S. same-store sales dropped 3.6%, the worst performance since the COVID-19 crisis in 2020, despite aggressive promotions and marketing campaigns. But when operating costs grow nearly twice as fast as revenue, even the most enticing combo deals turn into money-losing ventures. This is only the beginning. One trade decision has thrown billions of dollars in logistics, spanning from burgers to fries, into turmoil. Should the full 145% tariff be enacted, experts from the OECD warn that U.S. economic growth could decelerate to just 2.2%, while inflation would surge by year's end. McDonald's low-cost model hasn't merely dipped below profitability. It's now actively destroying shareholder value with every fry cooked. The company is staring down the first chapter of a broader supply chain crisis, one that could dismantle an entire industry reliant on fragile margins, unless Washington reverses course on its tariff strategy. The once beloved $1 menu is now the first major casualty. Historically a reliable resource for lower-income families, the menu helped McDonald's dominate the value market. But since 2019, with the cost of ingredients and packaging up 35%, the company had no option but to increase prices by a similar margin just to stay afloat. According to McDonald's internal Myths versus Facts report, nearly every major input, from beef and cheese to fries and packaging, has risen in price over the past 5 years. With profit margins this slim, the company couldn't absorb the increases. Price hikes became inevitable, turning data points on spreadsheets into real-world consequences. Thousands of loyal customers, especially those from lower income brackets, began walking away. In the first 2 months of Q1 2025 alone, revenue from McDonald's once dependable value combos plummeted by 18%, leaving both franchise owners and corporate branches bleeding cash. Restaurants across the country poured money into marketing, discounts, and promotions in a desperate bid to win back customers, but to little effect. The value brand, once seen as unshakable, collapsed under the pressure of rising costs and economic uncertainty. Another alarming development emerged. The price difference between a Big Mac in the US and China widened to historic proportions. Over the past 2 decades, the gap rarely exceeded 50%. That has now changed dramatically. Joe Erlinger, president of McDonald's USA, confirmed the disparity. The average Big Mac sells for $5.29 in the US, compared to just $3.53 in China. A $1.76 difference, with the US version nearly 50% more expensive. For many Americans accustomed to viewing fast food as a budget-friendly meal, this was a rude awakening. Even a Big Mac now feels like a luxury. Behind the scenes, the costs of beef, potatoes, packaging, and logistics are rising faster than wages, squeezing every corner of the business. Under intense pressure, McDonald's board approved the controversial Project Golden Arch exit. This isn't just a tweak to operations. 6 major U.S. processing plants will be shut down, and operations relocated to low-cost hubs in Vietnam and Brazil. The strategy aims to reduce expenses, sidestep harsh tariffs, and access lower labor costs under more favorable trade deals. In a bold move, Brazil's JBS Group, one of the world's largest meat processors, pledged to invest $100 million in 2 new meatpacking facilities in Vietnam. These plants, focused on beef, pork, and poultry, are specifically designed to serve McDonald's evolving supply chain, with much of the output destined for export, especially to North America. While this offers short-term cost relief, it also brings immense risks. For over 50 years, McDonald's relied on a just-in-time model that ensured fresh ingredients within a week. Now, it's entering uncertain territory, shipping food across continents via cold storage, ports, shipping lanes, and inland logistics. Any failure, whether due to delays, spoilage, or geopolitical disruptions, could compromise product quality. Temperature violations in transit have already led to batches of meat and produce being discarded. Even when products arrive at restaurants, they often fail to meet McDonald's freshness benchmarks, putting the brand's reputation in jeopardy. It once seemed impossible, but McDonald's now faces the very real possibility of running out of core ingredients like ground beef or potatoes within days. With many links in the domestic supply chain severed, the margin for error is dangerously thin. Back in the US, communities and workers are feeling the fallout. States like Ohio, Iowa, and Texas, once key to McDonald's operations, are seeing restaurants cut capacity or close entirely. In Iowa, a former hub for potato processing, factory closures have forced workers into lower-paid manual labor. According to U.S. Department of Labor data, over 24,000 food processing employees have lost jobs or suffered significant hour reductions in Q1 2025 alone, an 18% jump from the same period last year. It's not just a labor crisis, it's a crisis of the entire business model. The twin pressures of record tariffs and runaway costs have decimated McDonald's value menu, the foundation of its global appeal. Under America First 2.0, tariffs reaching up to 145% on agricultural inputs and 25 to 50% on packaging materials are squeezing the chain's profitability to the breaking point. McDonald's once survived on 5% profit margins. Now, those margins are evaporating before food even reaches the grill. Every time the fryer beeps, it signals not profit but potential loss. Thus, the move overseas has become the company's only apparent escape route. But make no mistake, this is a gamble that could cost McDonald's dearly. If food quality, taste, and consistency suffer, customers may not come back. Worse still, the company can no longer position itself as the king of cheap eats. Meanwhile, competitors are adapting. Wendy's is offering value meals priced 10% below McDonald's. Burger King has introduced $2.99 Whoppers. KFC has launched a simplified, budget-focused menu designed for families and cost-conscious customers. While rivals strengthen their positions, McDonald's is still in the early stages of building a brand new, improved global supply chain. The stakes are immense. The company must control costs without compromising food quality, all while facing fierce domestic competition and trying to maintain customer loyalty. If McDonald's fails, the once iconic golden arches may dim, regardless of how strategic or clever its tariff avoidance plans are. The fact remains, higher production costs are now embedded into every burger, soda, and fry. When Washington demanded the return of American manufacturing jobs, it unintentionally dismantled the very low-cost systems that everyday Americans had long depended on. Unless this tariff war de-escalates and meaningful relief is extended to struggling businesses, McDonald's might be only the first major casualty. Many small and mid-size enterprises could soon follow. It may be time for Washington to rethink its approach, one that protects domestic industry without driving prices out of reach for ordinary families. If low and middle-income households lose access to affordable meals, they will either be forced to spend more or resort to unsafe, low-quality food options, further fueling inflation. Amid all this upheaval, McDonald's is navigating a high-stakes balancing act, evading tariffs, slashing costs, rebuilding trust, and fighting to reclaim its reputation for value. But a single disruption, a price hike, a supply failure, or a new trade policy, could turn Project Golden Arch exit from a potential lifeline into a full-blown corporate catastrophe. As price volatility and policy uncertainty continue, McDonald's can only hope that lawmakers hear the cries of struggling businesses, before it's too late. Meanwhile, fast food workers are enduring the harshest consequences. The Institute for Supply Management has recorded 3 consecutive months of job losses in manufacturing. In Q1 2025 alone, 116,000 layoffs were reported. That economic pain is spreading fast. In February, the U.S. Department of Labor reported a staggering 245% increase in restaurant-related layoff notices. A total of 1.79 million filings were recorded, the highest number since the economic collapse of 2020. McDonald's, which once generated over $5 billion in quarterly U.S. revenue, confirmed that it would eliminate approximately 60,000 jobs across its production, assembly, and logistics operations. These cuts have severely impacted 3 key states, Ohio, Iowa, and Texas, which form the backbone of McDonald's U.S. supply infrastructure. Many of the affected towns relied heavily on the company as their primary employer. Following the factory shutdowns, local governments experienced a 40% drop in corporate tax revenue within just 1 month. The sudden job losses ignited public outrage and prompted the Teamsters Union, representing hundreds of thousands of warehouse workers and delivery drivers, to call for a national strike. On May 5, Teamsters Union President Sean O'Brien issued a stark warning, Unless Washington replenishes federal unemployment funds immediately, a wave of walkouts will sweep across the delivery industry. This statement came on the heels of another major development. UPS announced 20,000 layoffs and the closure of 73 distribution centers due to a 50% decline in shipments from Amazon, a trend linked to unstable tariff policies. The ripple effect has been brutal. Suppliers like Flowers Foods, which produces over 2 billion hamburger buns annually, are under intense pressure. Cold storage facilities in Iowa are nearing capacity, and small vendors are being crushed. One packaging company in Dallas filed for bankruptcy after import tariffs doubled. Meanwhile, cheese and potato farmers across the Midwest are watching their frozen goods pile up with no distribution channels available. The hardest hit are everyday Americans. With 60,000 jobs eliminated, many households have lost their primary sources of income, and affordable meal options are disappearing. For families in rural and suburban regions, areas still lacking access to large grocery chains, McDonald's once served as a vital food source. In small Ohio towns, residents are panicking. "We're losing tax money, we're losing jobs, and we don't even know what we'll have for dinner," one Springfield resident said. Now, with the collapse of the dollar menu, the layoffs could be just the beginning of a far more severe supply chain crisis, one that threatens to spread across the East Coast and Midwest unless Washington reconsiders its aggressive tariff stance. When Project Golden Arch forced McDonald's to scale back its U.S. presence, the legal and financial repercussions were swift. On May 28, 2025, the National Owners Association, representing over 1,200 franchisees, filed a class action lawsuit in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Illinois. The suit alleges that average input costs have surged 40% since the implementation of the America First 2.0 zero tariff policy. Franchisees claim McDonald's had no choice but to freeze menu prices to retain customers, resulting in losses of up to 90 cents per burger. Franchisees weren't the only ones voicing frustration. In its 2024 year-end legal review, top law firm Gibson Dunn noted that major investment firms BlackRock and Vanguard sharply criticized McDonald's for failing to alert investors about the potential policy risks associated with the new tariffs. Consequently, McDonald's market valuation plummeted by 18% in just the first 2 months of Q2 2025. These investors are now demanding financial restitution and greater transparency moving forward. Meanwhile, the U.S. Department of Justice has launched an inquiry after several states filed petitions accusing McDonald's of violating the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification (WARN) Act. The act mandates a 60-day notice before mass layoffs, something McDonald's allegedly bypassed when it slashed 60,000 jobs in early May. A Wall Street Journal investigation revealed that McDonald's had quietly closed its U.S. offices to prepare layoff notices, potentially without following proper legal procedures. If proven, the company could face significant penalties and further unemployment claims. Between the class action lawsuit, mounting investor pressure, and the DOJ investigation, McDonald's crisis has moved beyond short-term financial damage. It now threatens the stability of the entire franchise model, long considered the foundation of the company's empire, and sets a dangerous precedent for the broader fast food industry. Wall Street took a serious hit from McDonald's downturn. Between May 19 and May 23, 2025, McDonald's stock, ticker MCD, fell by 22%, wiping out nearly $900 million in market value in just 5 trading days. This sharp decline dragged down the entire food and beverage sector of the S&P 500 to its lowest level in 5 years. Investors are rapidly pulling out, as ongoing tariff uncertainty continues to erode profit forecasts across the industry. And McDonald's isn't alone in facing these challenges. According to Reuters, other fast food giants are now reconsidering their "Make in America" strategy. Indonesia has recently slashed import duties to attract international supply chains, including those in food packaging and processing. Insider sources suggest that both Starbucks and Burger King are quietly exploring plans to shift their packaging supply operations to Indonesia, where duties range from 0 to 5%, compared to 25 to 50% in the U.S. If this pattern continues, the Make in America initiative could become a global punchline. More supply contracts may head overseas, triggering widespread manufacturing and logistics relocations. The World Trade Organization has issued a warning. Global investor confidence in the U.S. business climate is rapidly deteriorating. When a fast food icon like McDonald's starts waving the white flag, the implications go far beyond one company. Multinational firms are now asking a difficult question. Is the United States still a viable destination for production and processing investment? The tariff policies are doing more than inflating costs. They're rewriting the legal and financial rules of the game. If McDonald's, the face of global fast food, is forced to retreat from its home market, then the entire domestic manufacturing network is at risk. Industries such as food packaging, printing, and meal preparation could collapse in a domino effect. The Trump-era tariff campaign was launched with the promise of reviving American manufacturing. But growing evidence suggests it may be undermining that very goal. If a fast food juggernaut with over 80 years of history in Illinois can't survive under these policies, what chance do smaller, less resourced businesses have? Reuters reports that the House Agriculture Committee will convene hearings in early June 2025 to investigate the collapse of affordable meal access and explore potential solutions for stabilizing the national supply chain. This may be the final opportunity for CEOs, labor unions, farmers, and policymakers to advocate for a smarter, more balanced tariff approach, one that supports American industry without destroying consumer affordability. So the question remains: should Washington continue down the road of protectionist tariffs, or begin lifting trade barriers before the value menu economy, and the jobs it supports, vanishes entirely? Let us know your thoughts on this unfolding crisis in the comments. Share this message to raise awareness, before it's too late.